Okay, so I'm Alex, or Jay, as most of the people like to call me, and this is Cătălin.
Or Alex.
And we're gonna want to talk about two things. Basically, we're calling it A New Hope because of the hype with the new Star Wars movie. But the thing is, we're seeing a lot of young talents in Romania, and not only. I mean, everybody's looking at the next generation and they're horrified. Yeah. And we would basically like to debunk that myth. And we would like to tell you guys how we find great talents here in Romania in our area, security research and stuff. And the next thing is related to IoT and something that we've been focusing on for the past 2.5, 3 years. And the IoT village, which is happening in the Vienna room. Okay, so about us. Well, we're part of a team that hacks the hackers. So basically the job of the team that actually that guy over there coordinates, Silvio, their job is to find bad guys, to take down botnets, and ironically, talking about how the police tries to criminalize security research, at the same time we are working with the police, doing security research, and helping them arrest bad guys.
Do you actually know the name of the team?
Bondi Bytes?
No, that's the CTF team. Our team is called Global Cybersecurity Investigations, which is GCSI.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So it's kind of ironic because, again, and I was asking Bo earlier, the police needs us. So criminalizing security research is damaging, as he was saying earlier, to human life, because the bad guys don't give a shit about the law, right? It's what they do, is they just go outside of the law. And if we are restricted by the law to do security research, then that means that the bad guys will always have an upper hand, always. But ironically, the police needs us, so for some reason we are able to do it. Okay, next. The team that Silvio coordinates participates in CTFs, a lot of CTFs. They do academic hacking, so to speak. And recently they have trained this young generation of talents that participated into Europe security.
Cybersecurity.
Cybersecurity.
European Cybersecurity Challenge.
Yeah. And
I'll tell you more about it.
Yeah, he's going to tell you about it. And we have, as a company, we have a very strong focus on IoT. So personally, my area, the things that I'm looking at is IoT research and IoT security research. Okay, now I'm going to pass it on to Cătălin to talk about what they have been doing.
Okay, so who here already knows about the European Cybersecurity Challenge created by ENISA? And there's probably some people of the Romanian team as well. I think the other ones are preparing to play in the CTF here. So a couple of years ago, ENISA came up with the ideal of educating people towards security or cybersecurity. And they tried to do this by creating a challenge between countries. This year, I think, was the 3rd edition, if I'm not mistaken, and Romania was invited as well to participate. We came in quite a bit late, as in we were notified and invited about June or July, something like that. And the competition is in October. The other countries they selected their team back in October last year, so they had quite a long time to train, about more than 1 year and so. So what we did was to start, finding the people. You need to have 10 people that are not working in the security industry, do not have certifications in security and so on. So people that find security as a passion, but not necessarily are active in it. Maybe they participate at CTFs and they study most of the security on their own over the internet and whatever. So we organized the pre-selection somewhere in August. Then we had a training in September together with trainers from Orange. Say hi. Okay, and the competition was in October. We weren't first, but that wasn't the point anyway. The point was to participate. There are several challenges that you have to do. There's Jeopardy, there's what's the other one? Attack and defense, where countries attack each other and you have to exploit the other countries. It's a lot of fun. And it's about 7 hours, if I'm not mistaken, including at the end a presentation skills area. So where you have to present one of the exercises you did during the competition. Anyways, the thing is, this competition is going to be again one more time next year and the years to come. And although initially it was only 3 countries, this year were 6 countries. The plan for the next year is to be 10 countries. And although I cannot officially confirm it, there's a big chance that next year's competition is going to be in Romania. So 10 countries are going to probably come here and compete and attack each other. The next pre-selection will be probably in February. So who wants to participate? Please go to Cybersecurity Challenge at RO and wait for news. That's it.
2 whole minutes.
I told you.
Yeah. Okay. So IoT. Well, as most of you probably know, the IoT space is huge, and according to statistics and predictions, is going to get the whole number of connected devices is going to get to about 50 billion by 2020. And there's a lot of crazy stuff. So there's this site called iotlist.io, if memory serves, where you can find all kinds of crazy stuff, like a portable fish finder, like an intelligent yoga mat. I mean, okay, we knew about thermostats, we knew about, whatever, sprinklers and smart locks. An intelligent, if anybody can find something interesting and pink on this slide. So,
it's an intelligent dildo.
Yeah. And we were kind of joking about it in the office, so actually it allows the boyfriend or husband or whatever to control it while the woman is on the other side of the world. And we were kind of joking, if a hacker, hacks into the account and does better than the husband.
Wait, there's great news for boys as well. There's the intelligent flashlight.
Yeah, so the thing is, all these devices are, as you might imagine, are not perfect. Because as the things stand right now, there are no standards when it comes to building stuff, like creating IoT devices. So Amazon is trying to build a platform. Google is trying to build a platform. A lot of companies are trying to create these standards, which we believe would be great if people would actually, use them. But the fact of the matter is that the creators of the intelligent dildo built their own stuff, their own operating system. I mean, that little thing and that application on the phone have have an operating system, right? And we've seen IoT devices that were running a busy box from 2007. I mean, all the way back to 2007 with all the vulnerabilities that were discovered since then, including shell shock, including Heartbleed and whatever. So the fact that they want to build their own stuff and just get the device out faster, and the fact that, as always, they're compromising security for usability, makes our lives harder as providers of security, because people look at us and say, well, we paid, we want. So we don't care if it's not Windows, or we don't care if it's not Linux, or we don't care if it's not Android, which you guys, and most security companies advertise that they support. We want protection. So we had to start this lab that does research in IoT vulnerabilities. And what we found is, again, scary. And it's stuff that most of you already know. You know, for example, most devices in your household, most IoT devices in the households allow commands, allow unauthenticated commands via wireless. So all you need to do is just be in the same network with the device, and you can send commands, you can talk to it, and interact with it. What else? Most light bulbs allow unauthenticated commands via UDP. Most devices have SQL injections or have vulnerabilities in the firmware. You can, basically, if you can extract the firmware, then you can find a lot of vulnerabilities in there. So there are no standards when it comes to IoT. So to that end, and our research aside, we came and we talked to the guys from DefCamp, and we came with the idea of building an IoT village here at DefCamp. And we finished it last night at 12 o'clock, midnight. And it's live now, it's in the Vienna room. And it's actually, let me see if we can get a feed from it. Hang on.
Are there people there?
There's one person.
Let's scare the shit out of him.
Yeah. You can
Has
actually
voice controls as well.
Yeah. So this is from one of the devices. Okay, the room is empty because all of you are here now, but I'm gonna guess you're gonna spread after this, or you know. And this is from one of the devices. This is a feed from one of the devices that we're putting up for hacking. So this is a Nest Cam. And switching back to this. Yeah. Okay. So basically, in the Vienna room, there's this table. All you have to do is sit down with your laptop, connect to the local network. It's a private network separated from the rest of DefCamp. And then you're going to be provided with the IP addresses of the devices connected. And if you hack it, you can go home with it. Well, it's not that simple. If you find an XSS vulnerability, maybe we're going to wait a bit more. Maybe somebody finds something that provides remote code execution, and maybe somebody can get a root shell on the device. So basically, the vulnerability with the most impact will yield the device to the one that found it. There's going to be a judge. There's a judge on site, and the judge will help you with all your needs. And these are the devices that are up for grabs. There's a doorbell. Yes. Okay, so there's a doorbell. There's this ugly, well, really beautiful for some apparently. Some guy came last night and started to pet it and call it my precious. It's an insane router. It's the most expensive, one of the most expensive home routers I've seen so far. And well, I'm not going to talk more about it, but it has a vulnerability, and it's not trivial to exploit. It's fun to exploit. Okay, so, and then there's this Nest Cam that was streaming earlier. And last but not least, the one that we're going to probably have to take home with us because it's so ugly. Okay, that's about it. We have one more plug. We're going to use it for us. So we're hiring. If you know about IoT, if you're into security, we have 2 open positions for researchers focused on IoT. So talk to us, find us here if you're interested. I think that's about it. It wasn't long, it was exactly 2 minutes. Questions? Any other questions? Well then.
From what networks are these devices accessible?
It's a private network, so you're going to have to go, hang on, wait, here. So this is happening in the Vienna room. It's all the way at the other end of this compound. And there you're going to find that table and those currently empty seats. And if you can find a spot, just sit down, plug your laptop into the network, and you're going to have access to the devices. Hello. Hello.
Can we use the feed from the Nest Cam to scare the shit out of Bogdan over there? I think you can talk to him from this room. Maybe play God with him or something.
Yeah, well, I don't like to allow Flash to use my microphone, but for you, I'm going to make an exception.
Thank you.
Make sure to scan that MD5 in the URL. It's the link to the camp, to the feed. Now, if the internets are going to be with, okay. We are watching. No reaction. Bogdan. Bogdan.
Smile.
Somebody call him.
All right.
Yeah, he's probably focused. Okay, any other questions? Okay, then.
Hey there. So I was in London last week attending a session held by Kevin Ashton, who's the guy that coined the term IoT. And he was talking about Kickstarter as the platform for bad ideas, where all the people are building intelligent devices that can do anything. And some of them you've even showed. The fact that there's no standard, no security guidelines in the world of IoT, how do you think we as a community or we as an ecosystem could tackle that moving forward, could make sure that current IoT devices and future IoT devices have, have that security component embedded from the get-go? And this is just so that we can prevent larger issues in the future when IoT becomes more prevalent in our daily lives.
Well, there are already steps taken into that direction. So there's Brillo. And so Google is, as I was telling you earlier, Google and Amazon are trying to build a platform on which IoT manufacturers can just put their hardware. So they provide the so Amazon provides the cloud platform, and Google tries to provide the software platform based on which you only have to, come up with the hardware and the concept and use their software. And that would be a great step forward because you're going to have only one operating system and some additional software, but significantly less to secure than it's currently now. If that doesn't happen, then I guess it's going to be up to us to try to talk to law enforcement to allow us to do the security research and publish the advisories and talk to the vendors. The problem here is that there are so many goddamn devices. All the people in this room and the entire security community worldwide, I don't think we would be able to do research in 1 month on all of them, because there's so many and they're growing exponentially because everybody wants to build their own IoT. The craziest thing, just 1 second. So I was at this company called Jabil, if I pronounced it correctly. They're the underlying layer for most hardware vendors. So even if you had Samsung on the label or Motorola on the label, it's actually probably built by Jabil. They have about 250,000 employees. And they had this conference about people that use them to build their hardware. And I saw the most craziest, sorry, bad grammar. Okay, the craziest device ever. Something that's the equivalent of electronic drugs. Seriously, so imagine weed on batteries. So there's this device that you put on your head here, you attach it, it's like, I don't know, this big. And With an application on your phone, you set the mood that you want to be in. You set it to calm or energetic. And I set it to energetic for me. I was stupid and curious. And then you have something like a dial. You set it to turn it to 1, 2, the level that you want to set it to. And when I reached 4.5, I had sweat on the back of my head, and I almost passed out. It was the scariest thing I've ever seen. And after 20 minutes of drooling like around there, I came to, and I started talking to the guy I was with, and we were thinking about the implications of that technology. So imagine, for example, I don't know, getting it to 7, passing out, and the thing keeps pumping stuff into your head. Or even worse than that. So there was an application that was talking to a remote server. Sure, I mean, it didn't say that it was talking to a remote server, but we all know how applications behave. So there was this application that was surely talking to a remote server, and if a bad guy could hack that remote server, so all of you probably seen Kingsman, right? Kingsman, you know, with kill all people with one button, because, so you have a buzzing in your, never mind. Okay. Yeah, so if you hack the server that talks to the applications, and let's say that there's like 100,000 people using the device, and then if you hack the app, you could basically set it to 10 to everybody and knock everybody out or worse. It's one of those movie scenarios that I was actually seeing come to life when I used that stuff and almost pass out because of it. And that's the end of my presentation. Lucian.
Yeah, I wanted to point out that we keep talking about IoT referring to next generation devices, right? Like all the dildos of the intelligent dildos of the world. But yeah, but there's one particular device that you included in your IoT list that's actually the original IoT device, which is the router. And the router is central in this discussion because, as you mentioned, all of the IoTs are created with the presumption that your internal network is secure. So if your network is secure, it doesn't really matter if we allow unauthenticated commands and open telnet ports and whatever on the internal network because it's secure. But your router is securing your network, right? And routers have been vulnerable for a very long time. It's not something new. So shouldn't we first focus on actually requesting security as a feature from router manufacturers so they actually build secure routers first and then maybe be more concerned about because these don't have a lot of adoption rate yet, but routers do have. And people don't really understand that the router is probably the most important device they have in their home. More important than their laptop, than their smartphone. It's their gateway to the internet and is the gateway back in. So I see a lot of discussion about IoTs and securing IoTs and all of these devices, but I don't see a lot of effort put into improving the security of routers, basically, right? And the fact that you mentioned that there are no IoTs security standards, we have to understand that there are no security standards for any embedded devices. For building most embedded devices, including routers, and all of these people that now build these new IoT devices, where do they come from? They come from the hardware building industry, the ones that built embedded devices where there were no standards. So they continue to perpetuate the same thing. So it's not only an IoT problem, it's a much larger problem.
Well, you know that we are working on that, but I don't want to turn this into a product pitch. Yeah, so we as a company are building a device that tries to address exactly what Lucian was saying on the same topic. We also want to create this awareness, this education. We want to define IoT because there are so many definitions for IoT. People think IoTs relate to thermostats and stuff within the homes. We personally believe that IoTs relate to absolutely any device that can connect to another device and interact with your home or with your life one way or another. That's what we call IoT. Maybe a laptop, maybe a pacemaker, maybe a router. That's what we consider as IoT. And on your topic, you know about the guy that hacked 10,000 routers and patched them. So this Batman of the internet, this vigilante, yeah, some guy hacked 10,000 Netgear routers, I believe they were, and patched them. Yes, definitely, routers should be able to do vulnerability assessments within your network and try to scan your devices and see which ones are updated, what software version they're using, what kind of traffic they're doing, try to sanitize at least HTTP traffic, try to see if there's some directory traversals happening for those devices, try to see if they're doing accessing some abnormal URLs. They should definitely be doing that. Some of them are.
Well, just to clarify, I wasn't speaking about the routers acting as an IDS or IPS or something like that. I was actually speaking about the router being the vulnerable device, the one that can get hacked, and the ones that do have a lot of vulnerabilities, and vendors are not really reacting. And they're not reacting because security is not viewed as a feature they can compete on. As long as users don't ask for this feature and they don't get pushed into it, they're not going to focus their development and R&D resources on the secure development life cycles and internal penetration testing and code reviews and all that. So they could keep putting out vulnerable routers. And compared to other IoT devices, there are actually mass scale attacks against routers. We know about hundreds of thousands of routers being compromised and brought together into a botnet. And over the past 2 years, it's only been increasing. We see more and more of these attacks. So I see this as a more urgent issue than let's talk about the new, sexy stuff, right? The IoTs, which are the new thing.
Well, I think that for starters, hardware manufacturers and router manufacturers could start with bug bounties, could start by encouraging people to hack them and responsibly disclose vulnerabilities that they found. And this is a thing that's unfortunately so rare these days in this world, in the router world, let's call it, and the hardware world. I don't know if it's because they're scared, because obviously they shouldn't be scared. They should encourage this, because this responsible disclosure is significantly better than getting hacked by a bad guy. I think it's also a PR thing. For example, D-Link, you see the red one on the table, it has a vulnerability, it has been patched. In this particular case, we didn't update the router because it's a fun to exploit vulnerability, but it has been patched. I mean, D-Link issues updates. It's just a matter of making it easy for the user to know that there's an update, which is, it's not the case. I'm sure that everybody's grandmother, mother, or sister in some cases, or brother, or whatnots, have no idea that there's an update available for their Asus, or whatever, D-Link router or Linksys router, and they have no idea that there's an update available. And even if they did, maybe they got an email, they wouldn't know how to apply it. So,
yeah, what I'm talking about is education, consumer education, right? I'm a journalist, I do my part. I write about this, I inform the public. But do you know who else could do this? You guys, because you have users, you have consumers, and you have a lot of people who rely on you for information about threats or alerts or stuff like that. So you should educate them about the importance of security in routers so the population can ask for that feature. And it's only then that manufacturers will actually start to consider building secure routers, because it's what their customers ask. And if they don't do this and another vendor does this, users will go with the other vendor, right?
That's actually an excellent point, and it's something that we have already started to do. So in most of our presentations, in most of our talks, and in most of our PR, we are starting to push this kind of feedback or this kind of information to the user. Okay, so if there are no other questions, then we thank you for your patience, and I'm sure you want to get some coffee. I know I do. So thank you all.
Thank you.